welcome back to K and K Real Talk. We are so happy to have you here. If you haven't met me yet, I am Kenni King, holistic health and wellness coach and transformation life coach. This is Kristen McCroby, my beautiful co-host. Hi, Kristen.
Good afternoon, morning, wherever you are. It's very Monday today. I'm feeling the Mondays.
Yeah, so full disclosure, ladies and gentlemen, we are both a little, so you're going to notice me between my like green smoothie and my tissues. I'm a little bit sniffly. I'm fighting off some junk from just travel and my stress sort of crashing my immune system a little bit. And then Kristen has had an exhausting evening at the ER with her significant other, and so she is barely hanging on. She's exhausted. So Kristen, thank you so much just for being here and showing up, even though life has been happening and you are so tired and you're still showing up for our community. So I just want to thank you for that.
Well, I think we're pretty much always tired for one. And I really wanted to do the third session for everyone so that they could see them all in a row.
Yeah, absolutely. And this session is, so I was just chatting with Kristen because, you know, she's just had a heck of a 2 weeks, and she's had a heck of a night last night that's gone into today. So when we finish this, she's going to be going to bed and getting some rest. So she has had just some life curveballs, and that is so normal. What happens is a lot of times we make a plan to work a certain program or to change our nutrition or to change something related to our lifestyle. And we start seeing positive improvement from that, just like Kristen has been seeing amazing improvement with her pain. She's seeing improvement in her body. She's progressing beautifully, and she's made a ton of healthy commitments. And then here we are. Life has just, you know, thrown some interesting curveballs by way of busy in her schedule, some things shifting around endometriosis and me. The shop's now open. There's a lot of, you know, new things going. She has tons of interviews and is really supporting the endometriosis community in so many different areas. And then now with you know, with her boyfriend getting sick and them not really knowing what's going on, that's introduced a whole level and layer of stress. So we haven't chatted too much about it yet, but I think the beauty of this and allowing everybody to see this aspect, this part, is this happens no matter who we are, no matter what goals we have. We start on a journey and stuff starts happening. And so what we want to do today, Kristen, is I want to honor exactly where you are in this journey. So no matter, you know, where it is, let's go ahead and start with, tell me, since the last time we chatted, because it has been 2 weeks. I was out of town last week. So it has been 2 weeks. Tell me what has gone well. Just something. And it can be one little teeny tiny thing. It doesn't matter. But anything that's gone well in your body or well in the progress that you've made for yourself. And let's just start there.
I'm proud that I've made it to all 4 of my MMA classes in the last 2 weeks. Thursday, I really didn't want to go, but then I knew that I would have 4 days to rest until tomorrow's next class, because it's Tuesday, Thursdays. Okay. I'm glad that I did that, and I went, even though I wasn't giving it my all. It was kind of like a half-assed exercise, but I still did it. So it's good. I've been working on the grounding with my ring, just to more like use it for a moment to like check in with myself and just like see how I'm feeling, because a lot of the time I kind of ignore myself. And like, because I'm always so focused on like, I have tasks to do, or I'm taking care of someone else, or whatever it is. I mean, especially as women with like goals and aspirations, it's a lot of work.
Yeah.
especially when we're like the caretaker plus living our own dreams. And now my boyfriend's sick, and we don't know what it is. It's a lot like when you go to the ER for endo and you're like, what is this? I'm in pain, I'm throwing up, I cannot sleep, I can't keep anything down. And like he has had these episodes like here and there over the last couple of years. And we had gone to the ER like a couple of years ago, and they had said it was kidney stones. So that's what we were going on thinking was like the kidney stones or whatever. Then a month ago, we went to the ER here after we had moved to a different city. So we went to the ER here, and if you don't know, usually the electronic files they don't link up like from hospital to hospital and things like that. Even though you may think that they do, because technology is so advanced, they don't have all the information from your past visits. So this, like a month ago, they didn't know what was going on either. It's like violent vomiting and pain in like the lower abdomen going through his back. So they gave him a CT scan and did blood work that first time, and everything came back normal except for just like being dehydrated, and white blood cells were a little bit up, which can also be from being dehydrated. And then this time we went because I didn't see any improvement over like a few hours really, and he was not getting any rest. So I said that we should just go, and everyone hates going to the ER or the whatever people call it, the emergency room. I don't know what people call it in different areas, but no one likes going there. And we know what it's like, and people just look at you like you're faking and you're just looking for drugs and stuff like that, because again, his blood work came back normal. His pee came back normal. Like it didn't look normal, like his urine didn't look normal. It was really dark, but they said it was just from dehydration, which is possible because he was drinking, but it was obviously not going anywhere. It was just coming back up, which is really gross. But, and like for me personally, I've always dealt with a vomit phobia. Like I know lots of people have different phobias like spiders and stuff like that, and it usually stems from a past experience, and I cannot remember for the life of me something that had happened to me to like bring on that phobia necessarily. Maybe something to do with my mom and drugs, I don't really know, but for as long as I remember, I have had this phobia. Anytime someone throws up near me or like makes like a noise like that, I start shaking and my heart is racing. And like last night I even like couldn't even hold it in, and I started crying. And like I couldn't, and like I was trying to get myself ready to take him like to the ER, because like you need to kind of talk for them if they're kind of delirious. So I'm trying to like get myself dressed, and I like literally had to take a moment to cry. I just felt like so overwhelmed, my anxiety, like if you have anxiety, you know that feeling of just like drowning and like everything is closing in on you, and like that's not what's happening, but you definitely feel like it is. And like I'm like, oh my god, I'm gonna have a heart attack. So like I literally needed to like say I need a minute, I need to cry. And then we went and got him looked at and stuff, and like it's stressful because you love them and you don't want to see anyone that you love sick, and the stress of seeing someone else sick makes you sick. Like especially people know with endo or fibro or things like that, where stress is a big trigger to trigger a flare, then you definitely like it's like extra work. Like you're taking care of them and you want to be there for them 100%, but then you're like, oh my god, my pain is spiking, I'm having an anxiety attack, I'm bloating right up. I'm like, oh, I can do this, I can do this. I'm like, oh my god, all I want to do is sleep and like rest, but I did, like, he said that I could stay home and go to sleep because I had a lot to do this morning, but you're not going to do that. Like, you're not going to sleep knowing that he's in the hospital, and I want to know what's going on and what they're doing to him, and like what tests are running, so that I know what tests have been run, so that we can run more different things or whatever they need to do to get to the bottom of it. But I just, like, I remember him saying, I understand you more now, not being believed and people thinking you're crazy and everything's not comes back normal, but you don't feel normal. So they don't really know what it is. I mean, it's a lot of the symptoms of like kidney stones and gallbladder stones, things like that, like vomiting and pain, but everything comes back normal. Like the CT was clear. So they've got to give him some ultrasounds to take a better look at the gallbladder. And like, it's just like, when it happens to like your spouse, it's kind of like seeing yourself from above yourself sometimes. Like, you know how much pain and confusion and like shame and everything else, like, it's embarrassing going to the ER, and especially for a man. Like, men just want to suck it up and it's fine. Like, they don't want to seem weak, which it's not weak going and asking for help. That's strong, asking for help knowing that you need it. But it's just like that, those stress triggers that, like, you can be doing so well and like you're eating right and you're exercising, and then it's not even a food trigger or something like that. It's like stress, which you literally can't control.
Well, that part is not true, fortunately. So that part.
It's true, like with mindfulness and things, and like,
Right.
I was trying to calm myself down and do deep breathing and stuff like that. But like, it's so hard when you like get yourself all worked up.
It's hard. And so I think part of the goal here is not to try to necessarily control it, because there are stressors that are out of our control, stressors that are in our control. But the aspect that we can help our body, like even when we might be spinning out of control a little bit, there are ways that we can hack the system and help our body, like trick our body into thinking we're actually not stressed, which is really cool, because that gives us a lot of hope. That gives us a lot of, and it takes practice and it takes work. So it's kind of like, we can't expect ourselves to just suddenly be able to do it and it not increase the likelihood of a flare. It's more like each time it happens, we get a little bit better and a little bit better. It's kind of like riding a bike or exercising a new muscle, or like exercising a muscle that we just learned that we have. It's not new, but we've never quite felt it before. Does that make sense?
Definitely.
And so, so there's this aspect where we can look at it and go, okay, how could we not control it, but how could we better manage it? And I think that's the question here. So before we dive into that, I want to ask, because where we started was on what's going well. And one of the things you said was, even though you didn't feel like it last Thursday, like you went to all 4 of your MMA classes, you didn't exactly feel like it on Thursday, but you showed up anyway, and you were so glad you did. So can you tell me what would have happened in the past, if this would have been a year ago or 2 years ago even, and you were like, you signed up for MMA classes and there was a day where you were like, I don't feel like it. How would that have played out in the past?
I wouldn't have gone.
Yeah. Okay.
I just, like, a lot of the time, if I don't want to do something or something's uncomfortable, I'm definitely an avoider. I'm like, I don't actually need to do that. And like, I'll talk myself out of it. So I'm like, no, it's fine. I don't need to do that. But then I was like, no, I do need to.
Okay. So this time it was, no, I do need to. And you went.
I did.
And
I was proud of myself for that, because really, I didn't want to go. I feel like I've been dragging my butt since Thursday, and then it's just like getting worse. I need to like catch up on some sleep.
Yeah, absolutely. And I totally agree with you that you do. But I love that you said, I was proud of myself for that, because this is the part we don't always pay attention to. Like, we don't always celebrate. One of the things you said was, I sort of half-assed it. But the thing is you showed up. And that's the thing, is we're not always going to show up with the same energy level. There are days where our best doesn't look like what our best looked like a week ago. And so sometimes showing up is our best. Like, you showed up and you moved your body and you were there, and allowing that to be more than good enough and being proud of that. I just wanted to take a moment to like congratulate you on that piece, because what that means is that the thought patterns are shifting. Instead of, I don't actually need to do that, it went to, I don't really feel like it, but I'm going to go do it. I do need to do it. And you gave yourself the grace of not being perfect. You didn't have to go and give it your all, but you showed up for yourself. And now
I didn't even care. I didn't even care. Everyone, like, we do warm up before like actually getting into the class and learning like moves and stuff. And we do a jog around the dojo. And I was like, no, I'm walking today. That's all I can bear.
you're like, I'm here, you're welcome.
Yeah, just left me. I don't even care.
Yeah, that's so perfect. And that's a testament to anybody who's on a healing journey, on an exercise journey, on a shifting nutrition journey. There are some days where we have this thought like, oh, I have to be like all or nothing. Like, I have to be 100% and all this energy. And sometimes we show up like that. Sometimes we feel fantastic and we do more than we ever thought we could have done in that workout or that week of nutrition or whatever it is that the goal is. And then sometimes we're like, I'm here, guys. That's all I got. And that is okay. We do the best that we can. Our best looks different on different days, especially with endo or PCOS or insulin resistance or any chronic condition, autoimmune condition, or any just healthy human. I mean, even the healthiest person, there are days where you're there and you're 100%, and there are days where 50% is 100%. And that's just, I think that's something key. That's like a key takeaway. And you just shared that so perfectly. So thank you for sharing that with us. And so let's dive into this other piece, because one of the things you said was, that it's hard enough just having endo and being on your own healing journey, and you're doing all these things with your nutrition and with your exercise. And I love that post you did, like I think you said taking Fight Like a Girl to a whole, like taking it early, where you had your like gloves. And so here you are, you're fighting like a girl for your body and for your health and for yourself. And, the stressors start to increase with your demanding schedule and with, with all the things related to your business and your goals and your aspirations. And then now with your partner being sick and being at the ER all night, and then your phobia coming into play and being triggered as well. So that's not even like just regular stressors, that makes it tough. And then when you have a phobia that also comes into play, that's triggering your anxiety and your panic, then it's like tenfold. And so there's this aspect of when I'm the caretaker and I'm also ill, sort of like, how do I manage my stuff while caretaking? And this aspect beneath the surface of the stress increasing, and that being such a huge trigger for endo. And that's what a lot of women, I think, don't yet realize, is how stress impacts any condition. Endo, insulin resistance, fertility issues, like stress is like a fire in the body. If you've heard me talk about this before, guys, I use that analogy a lot. It's like the body's so busy trying to put the fire out, it doesn't have time to do all the normal processes that a body does. And so stress is one of the biggest factors that we, especially in Western culture, need to be more aware of, in terms of our chronic conditions especially. And so you're right, there's that stress that can impact and trigger a flare-up that comes on, and now you are unraveling and in pain, and here you are trying to take care of others. And so that's a lot. That's a whole lot to deal with. So let me ask you, Kristen, because you said I was trying to like do some deep breathing. I told myself I just need to cry. And you gave yourself that space, right? It sounds like you gave yourself the space to just cry for a minute. And then you're like, okay, now I'm going to get myself together. So
pretty much.
Yeah.
Sometimes you just feel like you need to, like you feel like it's like a pressure welling up in your face, and you're just like, ah.
Yeah. Yeah. So tell me if this would be useful, because based on what I've been hearing, it sounds like focusing a little bit on sort of we can do this a couple different ways. We can kind of dig into the whys behind the stress, but we can also just get really strategic and create sort of a plan of action for when this occurs again, because the truth is this is going to occur again. Here's the thing about stress. If you're alive and human, you're going to be stressed out. It's hard. And then add on top of that being a woman in this day and age. And then add on top of that having a chronic illness, having these diagnoses that you've had. So there were so many, like, I don't even know if trigger is necessarily the right word. It might be, but stimulants in that, like here you are with him in the ER, but you're also getting all of this. It's embarrassing being in the ER. People think you're crazy because all your tests are coming back normal. Something's clearly wrong. And so there's all these different aspects where it brings up stuff for you emotionally as well. And that adds a different layer. So we have all of these layers happening. And some of those over time can be healed. However, the first step is sort of creating like a strategic, like, okay, here's how we're going to handle this. Here's what, it's going to do. Does that sound useful to you? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So let me first ask you, tell me how you did this really well earlier, but I just want to ask again so I can get really clear. How do you know when that stress begins to build in your body to the point where it's starting to trigger a flare? Can you tell me what that feels like in your body? Can you tell me how you know it's coming on?
If it's being triggered by stress, it starts like in my chest, like the rapid heart beating, and you're like, oh my God, and like trying to slow down your breathing, and then it moves and everything, like my stomach is all bloated right now, and like my ovaries are pissy.
Ovaries are pissy.
But
can you equate when they're pissy? Can you tell me kind of what that is? There any sort of physical sensation? And it's okay if you're like no, because that's weird. But it's hard for us to connect to our body that way. Go ahead.
It's like achy, like
okay, achy. So there's some ache stuff happening. Okay, all right. So we've got rapid heartbeat, shallow breathing. Stomach starts to bloat or is bloating. There's achiness in the ovaries and in the organs here. And then there was, earlier you mentioned there was some shaking and this sense of overwhelm and like a closing in. Yes?
Yeah, it's like the room is closing in on you, and you're like, yeah, you get like, I don't get so shaky anymore. Like I used to get like these like I would go like completely cold and like you just like start chattering, like that's how bad it was. Like prior. Now it's more of just like a uncomfortable shakiness rather than like uncontrollable.
Yeah. Well,
So,
that's excellent that you noticed that though, because that clearly means that you have progressed some here.
and it's exposure, like even though it's horrible, exposure to your phobias can help, even though I would much rather not.
And so, and I do just want to point out for our viewers and listeners that this clearly has like a couple of counterpoints. Like here we have stress building, and then we have very real anxiety happening as well. So what's happening here is at a scientific level where the autonomic nervous system gets triggered, it starts to tell the rest of the body that we are not safe. And so this is how it lets us know that we are not safe. Now, logically, we may know that we're not in any real imminent danger, but that doesn't matter to the body because the body does not know that. The body reads all these reads the signals of whatever's happening, of Kristen's phobia, of the stress rising in her system. So there's two different areas here. We have stress, and then we have very real anxiety. And I just wanted to take a second to share that you can have one without the other. Both are stress in the system. So both can actually trigger the autonomic nervous system to say, hey, we're not safe. We're not okay. And so we experience this in different ways. So if and I'm sharing this because if the vomiting were not a part of the whole scenario, you may have noticed one without the excessiveness of the other. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, like I would have still been stressed, but not so much anxious.
Right. And the reason I want to put those, I want to put them, in two separate categories is because both can absolutely trigger an endo flare. Both of them can. They both have that much power. One feels more one might feel more dreadful than the other. One can trigger the other, and that's all completely normal. So I just want to make sure so there are going to be some things that I speak to that I'm specifically talking about stress, and I'm not ignoring the anxiety piece because both can be supported. But we're not sitting here saying that what we're going to talk about today, like Kristen, I want to make sure you have some strategy today. But this isn't like, oh, this strategy is this cure-all, end-all, and you're never in your life going to experience anxiety again, because that's not the way that it works.
Yeah.
And I do want to be clear about that. Let's dive into that. So there's this rapid heart beating, there's the shallow breathing, and all along you're trying to manage this and go, okay, I need to just cry because I got shit to do. That's what's happening, right?
Basically.
Yeah.
Like you can literally, like, it feels like a tub filling. Like you feel the cortisol raising and you're like, oh my God, more. And then you're just like, oh, cry. Like as women, like we can't even control it sometimes. Like our hormones go crazy and like you can't even not cry sometimes. Like you'll be like, nope, I'm not going to do it. And your body's like, yes, you are.
Yes. And here's the beautiful thing. Sometimes that is what we need, which is why the body says, this is what you need.
And I did feel some release from that. So that's why I could continue on with.
Yes, that is so important to know. Crying is a good thing. Expressing whatever we're feeling is a good thing. If you're expressing it by hurting other people, that's a little bit different. So expressing in a healthier way so that you can try to get some of it out so that it's not bottled up inside of you, eating you alive from the inside out. We want to do that. And so I love that you did that. You trusted your body. You stopped and said, I just need to cry for a minute. And you let yourself do that so that you could get some of that out so that you could go ahead with what you were doing. So what I want to do is go through a couple of things that are gonna just support you in these scenarios. One is obviously your nutrition and exercise. Because when you have that on a regular basis, like your movement, your nutrition, your supplements, when you're giving your body what it needs, it makes it easier for your body to manage during these times of crisis. So, and that may be because of all of this amazing work that you've been doing. That may be a reason that you've noticed a difference even between this time and times of past, where instead of the practical, uncontrollable cold convulsions, you were shaking. But it was different than what it was before. So giving your body, I just have to say that as somebody who's in health and wellness, giving your body those tools. But let's talk about when you first start to notice it creeping on. I love one of the things you said. You said you tried to breathe deeply, right? You say that?
Yeah, and I do find that it calms down my nervous system when
Yes.
I do like the actual proper deep breathing in through your nose, like blowing up your stomach, filling your lungs, out through your mouth. I do find if I do that a couple of times, I do calm down a notch. So I do like to use that, and I recommend that other people use that, even though they may think like meditation, deep breathing, mindfulness is all like crap, which I did at first too. Once you start using it and implementing it and like know how to use it properly, I think it's really beneficial.
Yeah,
Like even
absolutely.
just trying to like keep in tune with my own feelings, because a lot of the time I'll just like feel and then I'll lash out and I don't even know why. Whereas I'm trying to like be more in tune with myself, like how am I feeling? Why am I sad? Why am I anxious? What's bringing this on? And like finding what the triggers are. And like with food, just going off topic a little bit, because I've been eating mainly meat and veg, not very much meat, more so veggies, like a lot of raw veggies. And it was Ben's birthday last week, and I had Chinese one night for lunch, and then the next night I had pizza for lunch. Oh my God, I felt so heavy and like
Yeah.
just like weighed down from all the carbs that I ate. I'd like, and I think like when you're eating bad constantly, you don't notice the damage.
Right.
You're just like, it's like that all the time. So whatever. And I think when people are changing their diet, they don't give it enough time, and they just say, "Oh, that's stupid. That's hooey. It doesn't work." And like that's with the mindfulness and the diet. And like you need to give it time. You can't just try it for a week and be like, "That doesn't work." Like you need to adjust to it and give your body, like I went through like detox where I had like pimples and sweaty and like smelled gross because like I was eating a lot of
Yeah.
sugar every single day. Like I was at a point where I felt like I needed dessert every night. I'm like, that's dumb. You don't need that. It's not as pleasurable if you're having it every night as if you're having it as like tonight we're gonna have a dessert. Like and
Yeah.
like when you really start to look at your life from like the outside and how you're living and changes you can make, it's really eye-opening.
Yeah, that's really, really true. When your body has that chance to be nourished and to feel good. The problem is most people have no idea what it's like to feel good. And then when they start to feel good and then reintroduce some of those other foods back in, they realize how quickly it actually impacts their body and can even devastate their body. When I have people do my reset cleanse, I've had people reintroduce a food and then suddenly get strep throat or something crazy because
Mm-hmm.
because their body gets, it's like, no, like I won't stand for this.
Exactly, yeah. And I feel like if I was having my bad eating habits up until like this episode with Ben, I think that it would have been like my anxiety and my stress would have been actually worse
Yeah, and
than
you're
it
right.
was.
Mm-hmm.
Like I
You're
feel like I was
absolutely.
better able to handle myself and get
Mhm.
through it, even though I felt like I needed to cry, just because like it would happen twice within like a short period within a month, and like you get overwhelmed because you're like, oh my God, why the hell can I not help this person?
Yeah, I think sometimes we think that the negative side, the emotional side. I think we sometimes want to ignore how important it is for us, and we want to be happy all the time and positive and have sunshine and rainbows, or that's what it's supposed to be like. That, or we're the total opposite of that. But and that's not really the case. And giving ourselves the grace to feel what we feel, like feel overwhelmed, feel scared, feel exhausted, feel all the things that we feel, and give ourselves some space to express that. Then we can get back to business in terms of handling life. It gets dangerous when we won't let ourselves go there. And so, yeah, I think that's such a perfect way of putting that, and then on top of that, just like you were saying, if you hadn't have had all of these nutritional resources where your body could handle as much of what it handles, it gets to recover quicker at this point based on, when you get some rest and when you get some real good nourishment. And so I want to go back to this piece about the autonomic nervous system, like the central nervous system, and a little bit of the science. I won't dig in too much, but we have our sympathetic nervous system and parasympathetic. And so the amazing thing is the sympathetic nervous system says, danger, danger, freak the hell out. It's the fight, flight, freeze response, and it's responsible for us wigging out. I mean, I don't know how else to put it. It's trying to tell us that we're in imminent danger. And so even though, and I've had this where I've been like, why can't my logic, like I logically know I'm not in imminent danger. And I've tried to handle an attack via logic, like an anxiety attack via logic, and that it doesn't really work. As you get better equipped with tools to use, you can get out of it faster. But it's not like you're going to head it off with your brain, that's not exactly how it works. But you can absolutely hack the system and get yourself back to like a steady homeostasis faster. So the parasympathetic system says, hey, actually, we're not in imminent danger to the rest of the body. And you only need 2 minutes in order to do that. So I know that we've actually talked about this before, but I really want to dive into this again in case any of our listeners haven't, and in case you haven't tried this specifically in this scenario. So you did it so perfectly. You went into some deep breathing, and you noticed that helps, because the body goes, if she were that part of you that's trying to save your life, it goes, oh, she's breathing deeply. If she were in danger, she wouldn't be able to do that. So it creates a switch. So one of the tricks here is to do that controlled breathing for 2 minutes. Now, this is hard when you're in an anxiety or panic attack. I'm not going to pretend like it's the easiest thing in the world. So there's a couple of different things you can do to ground while you're preparing for this. So I'll give you an example. Bringing all of your senses into the present. So you might say, like, in the moment, you might notice, okay, my feet are firmly planted. Or if you're seated, like, feel your butt in the chair or on the couch or wherever you are. Like, feel physically connected and grounded to something. So if you're standing, you might sit down or hold on to something and notice the texture of it. You want to get your senses involved. So I'm holding, like, right now my feet aren't actually firmly on the floor, but the balls of my feet are. I can't reach, my heels can't reach the floor. So the balls of my feet are firmly planted on the floor. And of course I'm going to say this out loud, but I'm thinking it right now. And so I might notice, like, right now I'm looking out the window. What do I see? I see a tree. So you want to be like, what can I feel? What can I see? What do I hear? Get yourself in where you're logically grounding and connecting yourself to things. I've done little things in the past where I've spelled a word forwards and backwards, but normally it's like I'm looking at it. And so I'm just focusing. What can I see, feel, hear, taste, touch, if you can get your senses involved, so that you can steady yourself and ground yourself in the present moment. And then you may have a little bit more of your faculties to connect to this deeper breathing. But the trick is control. And this helps you with grounding because you can use counting, and that gives you something to focus on. So there's 2 cycles I want to teach you. There's one, which is the 5-5-7. So you inhale for a count of 5, you hold for a count of 5, and you, with control, exhale for a count of 7. There's another one that's called 4-7-8. Inhale for a count of 4, hold for a count of 7, exhale for a count of 8. It's very natural when you're doing this to feel a little bit like you're suffocating. You might be like, oh, because you're not used to controlling your breath. If that's the case, you don't have to do the count. You don't want to panic on top of your panic, right? So if you're trying to do 4-7-8 and 7 is too long to hold for, which of course you can always count faster, give yourself the grace of just breathing deeply and slowly for 10 full cycles, because that's gonna take up about 2 minutes. It only takes 2 minutes to turn on the parasympathetic system that says we can rest, we can digest, it's safe. I'm in a safe place. Does that mean that you won't still feel your body buzzing from the anxiety? No, but you'll notice the slow down and the calm and the release. You will notice that it gets to release much faster, and you will take yourself out of it more quickly. Another thing that you can use that's really important and useful, Kristen, this would not have worked in your situation because he was the one that was sick. But when there's deep tissue therapy, is fantastic for the central nervous system. And so basically that's like a really tight squeeze. Now, you can't do this to yourself, but the more of your body that's encompassed in it, and you might be like, that's crazy talk, you don't understand my claustrophobia. I get that. I'm one of those people that if I'm caught in a, like, I will wig out on you. If I'm like play wrestling with my husband and he gets me where I can't move, I will lose my ever-loving mind. So I feel you on that. So it needs to be in a space where you might talk to your partner prior. Like my husband and I have an agreement. Like he knows that he can hug me from behind, so he has more of my back and wrap his arms around me, and it's tight. And you need 20 seconds at least. Now you can do this with a foam roller. Have you ever foam rolled, Kristen?
No, but I've looked into like myofascial release.
Okay. So I have a foam roller, and sometimes I use a foam roller. But any deep, like you hear about weighted blankets. I mean, the research on this is so intricate that they use this. This is a terrible example, but I'm just going to give it. They actually use this in like slaughtering scenarios, like with cows and pigs. They'll put them in a squeeze device because it calms them, and it helps calm them. And so people who are overstimulated, like some with like autism, and they use techniques like this, and at first you want to fight it because you're being squeezed and it might feel uncomfortable. So you might need a signal, like a word or like a tap, if it's too much pressure at first. They may just start with gradual pressure and then squeeze. But if you try this and you let yourself get through this, it also helps activate the parasympathetic, because you feel encased or very tightly. Yes, safe. So that's another thing that can happen that you can chat with your partner about, but you just want to talk to them about it beforehand, because if you're because this is what happened to me. I was in the middle. My husband thought I was dying. I thought I was dying. And when I'm in that state, I don't have the energy to communicate, hey, I need you to wrap your arms around me and squeeze me, not from the front because I can't have your face that close because I'll freak out. You can't have that conversation during. That's not going to be the easiest way. Or you may be able to, but it might be very, very difficult. There's a lot of times when I'm in that mode where I don't have the faculties because I'm so focused on not losing my mind that I don't necessarily have the faculties to form complete sentences in that moment. So there have been times where my husband didn't even know what was happening until after I started grounding and breathing and using those techniques. And then there came a point where when it's extreme, I was able to share with him the deep pressure. So It's a deep pressure squeeze, covering as much skin as possible. So, so you want like their body against your body, a very, very tight squeeze for 20 to 30 seconds. You want to make sure you have the conversation prior and that you have some sort of tap like, hey, this means release a little bit pressure. And if I triple tap, bring the pressure back in so that you have control of the scenario and of the situation. So those are just some different techniques. So Kristen, I wanted to come back to the breathing and ask you, have you ever tried like the 5-5-7 or the 4-7-8 breathing cycles? Have you ever tried those for a series of like 10 cycles?
No, I just kind of like try to like imagine my breath going to the bottom of my lungs and like to my pelvis, and like breathing all the air out. Like I like imagine that my lungs are like balloons and just like.
Wow. Okay. So you focus in and zero in. So yeah, what I would love to do, and I know this session is a little bit different than what we've done before, but I want to make sure you feel like you have specific techniques you can use. So what I would love for you to try is not just when this comes up, but right now, because this is really, really crucial. When our stress is heightened, we don't just recover from that, you know, like you may not be in anxiety mode right now, but your stress is still up there. Your body's stressed because you haven't had rest and you're about to sleep. So what I'd love to see you try over the next couple of days is doing these breathing techniques for 2 minutes or 10 cycles before you eat. Like anytime food is about to cross your palate, stop and check in with your body. Because you know how you were saying, I don't even feel my body half the time because we're going, and we're busy. And so whether or not, check in with your body, see if you notice any of the tension, but even if you don't feel necessarily tense, giving yourself that space because it triggers the rest and digest, so you'll be able to utilize the nutrients from the food that you're consuming better. They'll be assimilated better than if you're eating in a stress state. And so this can help the recovery process from everything that you've been through. And on top of that, if any of this gets triggered and when it comes up again, trying where you've already taken the step where you've been trying deep breathing, trying the actual, see if you can get through 10 full cycles of either the 5-5-7, inhaling for a count of 5, holding for a count of 5, exhaling for 7, or the 4-7-8. Same thing. Here's the trick. The exhale is longer than the inhale and the hold. If you're doing it that way, you're doing it right. And giving so that you can actually see how 2 full minutes compared to just a couple of times, how your body responds to that. And gives you that, by all means, if you need to cry, cry. If you need a minute, take the minute. But giving yourself the space. I've used this technique even with people on airplanes. I was on a flight not that long ago. It was just back in July, where I wasn't sitting next to her. I wish I was sitting next to her because I could have helped her more. But where I saw a woman who was absolutely just struggling in her anxiety. So I wrote it out on a piece of paper and handed it, like had somebody pass it over to her so she could use it through the landing, because it was really tough for her to get through it. So doing this in the moment, remember first using the grounding techniques and trying to get all of the senses available to you so that you're bringing yourself back into the present moment. And if for it's like you're trying to allow your body to understand, like, yes, I have anxiety and I have stress. There's a lot going on. However, I'm physically safe. The faster the body believes that we're safe, the quicker we can hack the system and calm the excessive symptoms that have us feeling like we're about to die, because sometimes we feel like our heart's going to explode and we're going to die. And so even if you're one, and I'm telling you guys, when I have an attack, I will go in. Sometimes it can be quiet, and sometimes I'm hyperventilating. And that my last one, I mean, both my husband and I really thought I was dying. Like it was very, very tough to get through. So using these things helps. It helps teach the body that, hey, I'm actually not in imminent physical danger right now, so that the body stops responding like that. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So is that useful? Like, does that sound like something you'll be able to implement and try out and see how that will work?
For sure.
Okay, beautiful. So we have the grounding techniques, and then we have the controlled 2-minute breathing techniques. That's the important part, the 2 minutes. We need that time. And just remember, if you feel like you're suffocating, that's natural and normal. You can control it a little bit less, as long as it's just like you were saying, deep all the way down, breathe all the way into your pelvis. Hold it for a second in your body, slowly exhale and control, instead of like, we want to like let it all out real fast, like a balloon that goes all over the room. So the controlled 2-minute breathing techniques. And then what I would love to see you do, so that we can maximize how quickly you recover from all of this, is doing the breathing techniques like the 5-5-7 or the 4-7-8, whichever you can play with both, see which one you like better. I'm actually leaning towards the 4-7-8 now, which I never thought that. I always thought 5-5-7 because it's like closer. But the 4-7-8 is more comfortable for me. Trying that for 2 minutes before every single meal, so that your body can assimilate and process those nutrients, which means you get to keep more of your nutrients versus excrete them. Because when we're stressed, our boron, our calcium, all of our, like a lot of our micronutrients are just being released from our body. It's crazy town what happens to our bodies during that. And then I want to throw in one final piece of this, because one of the things we talked about was there are stressors that we can control and some that we cannot control. We have more control over how willing we are to experience stress on the long term related to issues. That is, we can do mindset shifts. There's a lot of control that we have that we don't realize that we have. In the beginning, it feels like that's a total complete lie, and I do get that. So I want to share an exercise that I found to be super useful in this. And that is like writing it out and making a list. So you can sort of journal. Okay, here's what's stressing me out, because we all have probably 45 different things on any given day that are stressing us out. But if we jot down the top stressors and then look at each one and go, okay, is this something within my control or completely out of my control? For example, I keep planning these, certain of my needs being met that are related to being out in nature. And literally for the past 2.5 months, the weather's like, no, ma'am, I'm not doing that. That's not in my control. Like, I can't control the weather. And I get bummed out because I'm like, oh, this is what I need though. Like, this is one of my needs. And so, so that gets exhausting, like fighting with trying to figure out what the weather's doing. And I'm like, the universe is against me.
I think we often feel like that.
Right? Yeah. And so, which is not true, but when we're looking at them and we go through, okay, this is in my control, then we get to ask ourselves, what am I willing to do to change this or shift this? Like, if you absolutely hate your job, you don't have to have that job. Now, you might have to have that job for the next 6 months while you're looking for another job or while you're building something else. But we sometimes take our own power out of what's happening in our life, and we act like we have absolutely no power and life's just happening to us, right? So if it's something that you know that you control, um, ask yourself what you're willing to do to create some change. Am I willing to take better care of my body? Am I willing to get some support in this area, get counseling, get help, whatever it is, you know? Am I willing to take steps to create change and shift and get really real about that? And then on the aspects of what we can't control, like you cannot control that he's sick and that you don't know what's going on.
I hate that because I'm a control freak.
Yeah, and I feel you on that. It sucks. So it's fair to ask, how can I shift my perspective on this or related to this? So where I'd love to sort of complete is kind of using this technique and asking, Kristen, I'm going to give you two scenarios. When you are the healthiest, most stable version of you, or the spiraling, spinning out of control version of you, which version can he rely on more?
The stable one.
The healthier, stable, most stable. Here's what tends to happen for those of us who are nurturers and caretakers. We put our own needs and health on the back burner to take care of others. And then what tends to happen? We get sick. Right. And a lot of times people are like, well, I don't have time, or that's selfish, or whatever. And it might feel that way at first. You can make decisions to care for yourself while caring for others. Sometimes some of those get on the back burner, but then we just ask, what do I need? So do I need to, if I don't have time to cook, can I whip up some of my nutrient dense smoothies and shakes and make sure I'm at least getting my supplements and drinking water? Like what do I need? And you did such a great job. You said, I just need to cry for a minute. That was one of them.
And I felt really bad because my boyfriend tried to hug me while I was crying, and I kind of told him to go away.
Yeah.
Because I needed that moment to myself to just get through it. And like, I apologized, but I felt so bad because he was trying to comfort me while he was sick, and I'm just like trying to push through it to move on. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, acknowledge it, move on.
Mm-hmm. But you felt really bad because he was trying to help.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing is you told him what you needed. What he needed to do to help you was to actually give you some space so that you could have that moment. And so you very much advocated for what you needed. And afterwards, you can always come back and say, hey, I so love and appreciate that you wanted to care for me in that moment. And by you listening and letting me have that space during that time, I hope you didn't take that personally. It had nothing to do with you. It had everything to do with what I needed. Because here's the thing, a lot of times we feel guilty asking for what we need. But if we are getting worse because we're not speaking up for ourselves, we're not any good to anybody else, right? So let me ask you this. For right now, for this moment, and for these next few days, what do you need to help yourself refuel, rest, nourish? Like, what do you need so that you can continue to be the you that you want to be for him, the more stable, healthier version of you? What do you need right now to follow through with that?
A good meal and a good sleep.
Okay. So I know when we get off of here, you're definitely going to do a good sleep. So how soon can you get a good meal?
I'm probably going to eat first. I probably won't go to sleep right away just because I'm up now. Like, I got like 2 hours of sleep, which is really nothing for me. Like, my sleep is usually like 8 hours being a short sleep and like 12 being like my normal sleep, because I do sleep like a lot and I feel like I need that to
Yeah.
recharge for the day.
Okay. So we're going to get off of here. You're going to go do a good nutrient dense meal so that your body has more of what it needs to recover. You're going to get good sleep. Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. And then we have at any point in time the opportunity to list out those stressors, notice what we can control, not control, in the control, what are we willing to change, not out of our control, or out of our control, what new perspective can I have around this that's more empowering? And then utilizing those breathing techniques prior to every meal. And really, this is great. If you're under stress, if you're like a stressed person, if on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being to the max, if you were to say, I'm a 6 or above on any given day, I would recommend you do this before every time food passes your lips. I'm telling you right now, it's a huge like hack to help your body actually lose weight, to help your body slow down the digestive stress, because 75% of our digestive stress is who we're being when we're eating. And that means, are we multitasking? Are we stressed out? Or, that it's crucial. So the breathing technique prior to eating, so that your body knows that it's in that, that it triggers the parasympathetic system and you're in a rest and digest phase. You can also do the breathing techniques to help you fall asleep faster. And then, of course, when you start noticing all of that stuff amp up in your body again, using the grounding techniques and the breathing techniques to support you, because over time it'll get easier and easier and you can bring yourself back to neutral more quickly. How's all that sound?
I like it. I feel like everyone should do that, make a list of what they can and can't control. Maybe I'll do a quick blog post about it and then other people can do theirs. I'm sure a lot of our stresses are the same.
Oh, sure. Absolutely. Absolutely. And a lot of times it's the mindset shift that gives us the most power in any given scenario. Like one of my mantras for 2018 has been, life is happening for me, not to me. So every time I feel like life is happening to me, I take that step back and kind of go, what's in this for me? Because I used to be like, the universe hates me, and it was my running joke. It was just such a joke for me. But the joke that has all the truth beneath it, like I really believed that life had to be so much harder on me than everybody else, and I didn't understand. And when you get confirmation from other people, that makes it that much worse. So I would get people all the time who would say, I don't know why all this stuff happens to you. I don't know anybody else that all this crap happens to. And I'd be like, hey,
why is that?
Yeah. Oh my gosh, even I talk about therapy a lot. So if you've heard me speak before, you've heard me talk about therapy probably, but my therapist, whenever there have been times where she's been like, I don't know why all this stuff happens to you. And I'm like, goodness gracious, if the person whose like job it is to sit all day and listen to everybody's crap all the time is also having that response, like clearly life is a disaster for me. But how did that mentality help me, other than let me shirk responsibility for my life out to the powers that be versus all the power that's in me, right? So,
and I think a lot of the time us endo sisters have that.
Yes, we do. Because I'm just, this is going to rub people the wrong way, but it's a shade of victimhood. It just is. And victimhood is easier than being your own superhero at first blush. Yeah, at first blush, because what do we get? When we get to be the victim, we have no control, right? It's happening to us. When we start to make that shift and decide, Why might this be happening for me? What's in this for me? What can I learn? How can I grow? What can I bring to the world because of this? That changes everything. But we're not always willing to do that because we're always winning the game we're playing. And when we're playing the game of victim, we're going to
Pity
hold on.
party.
Huh?
Everybody loves a pity party.
Yeah. And we say this in love. We say this because, I mean, Kristen, I think I can speak for both of us when I say we've both been there. Like, we've been there. We've been in that space. I spent years of my life in victimhood, meaning I gave years of my life away. And there is a bridge that can be crossed there. And we do that by becoming our own superhero because nobody's coming to save us. There's nobody coming to rescue us. So,
not your husband, not your mom, not your dad, you.
And so, and it's so powerful once we get to that space of going, what can I do about this? Because I can do something. Better is always possible. And that's what we're doing is we're striving for better. We're striving for more. We're striving for healing. And I try not to get irritated. Like, I get it when people get frustrated when I say things like I stopped my endo in its tracks or I'm healing from the inside out. Like, I can't even believe how much progress I've made related to my pain. And it's because I'm an advocate for myself and I'm not going to be a victim. I'm sorry, but I'm just not. Like, I'm choosing something different and I'm choosing to believe that I can heal. So that's just that. That's just the end of story. Just like those who suddenly magically cancer disappears from their body, guess what? Cancer doesn't have a cure either. I don't care. I'm not here to listen to that. I'm here to heal from the inside out and help others do the same. So kudos to you, Kristen. You've done such amazing work. And I know you need to go get your good meal and good sleep and use those techniques. And so I appreciate you sharing all of this with us, especially over these last 3 sessions, really opening up yourself and where you are right now so that you can get some specific feedback and specific tools to implement immediately. Thank you for that.
My life is pretty much an open book.
Absolutely. So thank you so much for joining us. We have so many goodies coming your way, interviews of different health professionals and experts. So thank you for being on this 3-session journey with Kristen and I. In the future, we may do some more like this. But for now, that brings this little 3-episode segment to a close. And as always, if you guys have specific issues, problems, challenges, topics that you want to hear us discuss, that you want to hear us get real about, please contact us directly. Let us know. We love hearing from you. Most of our topics come from you. You can find Kristen at endometriosisandme.com, as well as all the Endometriosis and Me platforms on Facebook. She does a fabulous job of managing them all. Please remember that her shop is now open. She has amazing endo swag. And so check out her shop as well and get you some Fight Like a Girl goodies. And then you can, of course, friend request me on Facebook. You can find me also at Kenni Rochelle Coaching. And of course, our closed group, Endometriosis, Nourish, Flourish, Thrive. We're here for you, for your success, for your growth, for your healing. And we love you, ladies, and we'll see you next week.
Have a good week.
Have a good week. Bye, guys.